From Wake Up, it's the Nolan Night Show, inviting you to join Nolan as guest this week, Megan Shoniker to the show. And now, ladies and gentlemen, here's Nolan.
And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of the show. Joining us today is not only a phenomenal basketball player and coach, much better than I am. She is a legend at the University of Rhode Island, and not only is she a former player there, but now she's teaching the future generation of legendary players, especially the last few years that you are in this new era of the team. She is a former member of the Rochester, New York area. She is the one and only Coach Megan Shoniker. Coach, how are you today?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Of course. As I said, this is a treat for me, and to be able to talk to someone who has played such a big role in bringing URI basketball up to the surface level as it should be now. It's a big deal for me. So thank you again. Obviously, these last few years and your experience, especially as a coach, has been greatly affected by what we've all gone through, the craziness with no season, no fans, and now fans back, and now it's rocking and rolling, air quote. We'll see what happens with monkeypox, but for you, what's it like now, 2 years later almost, to be able to experience something of a sense of normalcy?
You know, it's refreshing. It's refreshing to be able to just socially be able to go places, see people without masks on all the time. Obviously, there's still some danger out there. But it's just nice to be able to see our kids be able to experience, the true college life, being a student athlete, being able to go out and do things. It was a rough year there when we were really shut down and kind of playing in a bubble. Yeah. Some of our kids really, struggled with the isolation. So just seeing some of those kids being able to do things and experience, URI for what it is. And then, myself socially as a young adult, it's nice to have somewhat of a normal life back. Sure.
When do you remember, but that first moment where you're told by either, whether it be Thor or Perlange or whoever it was at the point, or the CDC, whoever it was, where things are now okay and now you can go back out and do it. Do you remember that first moment, and what was it like for you?
It was probably maybe the summer or even going into last fall, I want to say. There was still some, we got shut down in our spring workouts pretty late there. And it was kind of up in the air what we were going to do with summer. And then, we let our kids come back for summer. And that's really when things kind of started opening up. And, as a coach, as a professional, you felt a little bit more comfortable with, going out and doing things and not having as much of a fear as possibly, exposing everybody and having things shut down. So it was probably, I can't remember the year, maybe it was last spring, not this past spring, the spring before, where things kind of started to loosen up a little bit.
What during this time, it gives people a moment of reflection and be able to see things that they didn't really see before. What did a different Megan learn about herself that she didn't know beforehand?
That's a really good question. I think I just became extremely grateful for the people in my life. Something as small as we couldn't go home for Christmas that one year when things were really bad. So I wasn't able to see my family, during our family's favorite holiday. So it was really so just appreciating the people that I love, the people that have been close to me. And when I have time with them, just really enjoying that time and being present in the moment. I think sometimes life gets going, things get going fast and you kind of just wake up, you have your daily routine, job, dinner, sleep, all that. I just really tried to be more present in the moments and really appreciate the people around me.
I mentioned in the intro your success that you've had as a player, and as of 2019, I don't know if it still stands, although I'm sure it has, the record leader of all-time career points at your high school. Growing up in Rochester, the success you had there, but also as a student at URI, what was your, I don't say hopes and dreams, but your viewpoint on basketball and what you wanted to accomplish within the sport at a young age?
I always loved basketball. It was just kind of a place where I felt my most self. I felt my most comfortable, confident. So, I knew it was going to be a part of my life for as long as I wanted it to be, but probably, high school, towards the end of my high school career, early into my college career, I made a decision that I wanted to be a coach. And I knew it in those moments, how big of an impact basketball had on my life, and the coaches that I had had. Really found myself wanting it to be a part of my life forever. And I wanted to give back to the game that gave so much to me, and, give back to, these young ladies, just like my coaches did.
Sure.
Without, my biggest mentors are a lot of my coaches outside of my, my parents, my father in particular. But I wanted to be that person for, the next generations to come. And, basketball is giving me so many opportunities. It's made me, part of who I am today. So I just wanted to do that for the next up and coming.
When one person's successful at something, they can kind of tell early on that they have these innate skills that most regular people like myself don't have. Do you remember that moment that you're like, oh my gosh, I can do something with this ability?
Yeah, it was young because I didn't play with girls. It was, again, I want to sound as humble as I can saying this, but playing with girls at that point was too easy for me.
Sure.
So my dad would always send me to the boys' camps. And I was actually one of the better campers, always winning a lot of the one-on-one competitions, a lot of the shooting competitions. So I kind of knew then, like, okay, I'm not your normal, girl growing up,
Sure.
So it was pretty young. And then I just fell in love with it. And, from there on out, it was hard work that really allowed me to, have the success that I had.
Some of the athletes I've had that have played college basketball, mainly some of the guys who have played for the men's program, I've asked them sort of their experience in terms of having colleges look at you, because you see nowadays, and I don't know if it's really on TV anymore, but the spectacle of putting your hat on, oh, we're tricking them, putting this hat on the jersey, and where they play, but you don't really hear about what the player went through at the end of their high school career to get that college to get them in that situation at that point in their life. For you, how did you move around and operate in that part, especially when you're having all this attention towards you?
It was a lot. It was overwhelming, especially at the beginning before I could really figure out how to navigate, all the coaches calling, all the coaches coming to my games, all the information that was being given to me. It's really, really hard not to get a big head when you're young and you have these, people telling you how great you are. But my father, really instilled in me, to be humble and just work hard. And I kind of just stuck, my toes in that, and navigated the process the best that I could. I really wanted to try to find a fit for me, academically and basketball, and just a place that felt like home to me. Again, family is really important to me. People are really important to me. So in my decision, that's the first thing that really mattered, was what's the feel, what's the vibe? Do I feel comfortable here? And then can it give me academically, and athletically what I want? And there was a couple schools that it came down to, but ultimately my heart and my gut, led me to URI.
Probably the one of the better decisions you probably could think of your life, coming to the University of Rhode Island over other schools. Speaking of URI, going to URI, I'm sure there are other, as you mentioned, other schools you went to and other reasons why you wanted to go to college and what you were going to get out of it. What was it about URI that set it apart from other schools, besides maybe the coaching and the atmosphere and the environment on campus?
Yeah, it was for me, it was the people. It was the coaching staff, it was the players, it was everybody that I met in my visit. It was just feeling a sense of home, belonging. My father got the same kind of feelings as I did. And again, he was a big part of, my decision. And I just felt like it was just where I was going to be supported, loved, cared for, throughout my college career. And so it was really the people. Obviously bringing, going to Narragansett and Newport and seeing all of those things, it's hard to turn down as well. But I'm being 100% honest when I say it was the people, specifically Coach Garrick and Coach King, who both had a big hand in recruiting me.
Sure.
So,
well, and that's another thing. Coach Garrick doing very good things at the University of Vanderbilt and find success there, and one of the few players to come back and find success at the University of Rhode Island as a coach. By the time you end your time at URI, and your name's all over the record books in terms of points scored, assists, points per game, and that sort of situation, Before that started, and you look back at it now, when you're getting into URI, maybe as the years go on as a player, what is the conversation like in terms of your input and your production for the team with the coach?
As far as me being an assistant.
Oh no, I'm just saying when you were a player and you're moving up in the team, because now you see that you had a successful career at URI as a player, but when whether it be a freshman year and then as the time goes on, what was the conversation with the coach in terms of what you need to provide?
Yeah. Okay. That's a very good question. So, for everybody, really, your freshman year is just figuring it all out. Right. So I don't think there was much expectation for me outside of just coming in, working hard and, just learning from the upperclassmen as much as I possibly could. And it was a slow burn my freshman year. Early on, I played a little bit here and there, and then gradually as the season went on, I played a good amount. And then after that, it was really like, we need you, to become a big time player. We need you to have a significant role in the team. And again, a sophomore year, it was a little bit of a transition as far as that goes. But towards the end of my sophomore year, I felt like I was, a pretty significant player on the team. And then my junior and senior year, it was, my time to kind of step up and be a leader. So it was a progression every year of, my role and expanding my role. And then towards the end of my career, specifically becoming a leader.
I would think and this is just as a bystander, as a fan of sports, college basketball, at least as an athlete, you want to make it to the next level, but it's a sink or swim situation where if you're not going to put the work in, you're not going to, survive, you're not going to make it. So for you, that transition from high school to college basketball, your freshman year, how long did it take for you to acclimate to that? And how much of a challenge was it for you?
No, it wasn't the work side of it, the hard work, the time in the gym, all of that, that wasn't too much of a transition for me. Again, I've always been someone who, if you're going to do something, you're going to go 100%, and, you're just going to go, all the way till you have to physically stop yourself, sure. I guess. So it wasn't really the work. It was more so the being away from the family, figuring out my time management. How can I do practice, go to class, study, and get the extra work that I needed to get in, on the court. So the first couple of weeks, it was the homesickness and just figuring out kind of my rhythm, being on my own, being by myself. And once I kind of got that down, it was pretty easy after that. But the homesickness was a real thing.
Yes. I have to say, me being a Rhode Island born and bred guy coming from South Kingston around. So as I say, I traveled very far to the Kingston campus, and even then feeling a little homesick my freshman year before the time got on. Yeah. And you experienced this as a coach, comparing the team success over the individual success or vice versa. And as a player, though, how did you deal with that when maybe you were doing very well statistically, but then the team might not have been doing as quote unquote successful as maybe it should have been?
Yeah, it's a team sport. So unfortunately, we didn't win a lot of games throughout my tenure there. That was something that, was probably my only regret or my only, negative thought when I look back at my career at URI is I wish we could have brought more, wins to the program. But so that the statistics, it's nice. It makes, oh, great. I can look back and say, I guess I did something individually, but it doesn't really matter because it's really all about winning. And to be honest, that was one of the main reasons why I wanted to come back to URI as a coach. I felt like I had unfinished business, and, I really love Rhode Island. I love URI, and I wanted to bring championships back and, get the program back in a winning direction. So, the individual stuff is great. But again, it's nothing when you can't come out with a W at the end of it.
How did you take that experience and then sort of mold that into a coaching mindset your first year when you were here at URI, seeing as now that you guys have done very well?
Yeah, it's a process. So our first year, it was really all about, just instilling our culture in how to do things, the work ethic, the decisions on and off the court, the believing in each other, the chemistry, all of that. So I knew what it felt like to have tough seasons. I could stand right in their shoes, knowing how when you're losing every night, how hard it is to stay true to that process. So it was, conversations, with them about how whatever it is, it doesn't matter the outcome, you do things a certain way. In our first year, those kids, to their credit, they really bought into it. And a lot of those kids, kind of set a foundation for, us going forward and where we're at now. So it's tough. It's never easy, waking up, rolling out of bed and walking into the gym, for 2.5, 3 hours after you just took an L the night before.
Sure.
So that's why the process is so important.
Sure, exactly. But the end result is much better after putting that work in. Now, when we first got in contact a handful of months ago, and I was doing my notes and putting stuff together and editing it more recently, I came across stuff on YouTube of it was like a day in the life of a basketball player, and it was my guest there, yours truly. For you though, as a player, and that sort of, you see that nowadays with the technology advancements that players are doing, that football team and basketball and all that sort of stuff. For you to do that and sort of showcase the team, what was that like for you back then?
Oh, that was a blast. Me and my teammates, AJ, Sherry, Lara, who, were my best friends throughout my couple of years at URI. We had an absolute blast doing that. I mean, there's some stuff in there that we're just acting complete fools, but just enjoying ourselves,
Sure.
And it's nice to look back on every once in a while. And then of course I have players all the time who Google it and stumble across it online and want to bring it up to make fun of me. But it was good stuff. It was really fun. I love doing that.
Sure. Trailblazer for what happened nowadays with TikTok and all that stuff.
Yeah. Credit to Jody, our sports info at the time. That was her idea. So it was good stuff.
Well, when I find it, I'll say thank you for putting that together, because it definitely was something to look at and smile at. Now, after you graduate URI, to make it to college is one thing and do well, then that's another thing to find success. But then to make it overseas and find even a little bit of success over there, what was that experience like for you to then get overseas and play? And you make one of the first team, all teams or whatever it was for that league. What was that experience like for you?
It was once in a lifetime. That was always a goal of mine, was to play, professionally. And I wouldn't have changed it for the world. I learned a lot about myself. I learned a lot about, what I wanted in life and what was important to me. It was, waking up, going to play basketball all day, getting paid for it. I don't think there's a better, career out there. So I'm fortunate, very fortunate and grateful that I was able to do that for a little bit. And then, ultimately, again, I keep getting pulled back to family.
Sure.
I miss my family. I wanted to go home, and it was a short career. Looking back, I probably wish I would have played a little bit longer, because the real world's never yes. fun. But it was, it was a great opportunity. I'm very lucky to have had that.
Knowing that you were, pardon my French, but hell-bent on becoming a coach at the college level, you never know what happens. Something could go wrong and might not be able to do that. Was there any inclination or view or idea of a backup plan if coaching wouldn't work out, even though, clearly you did?
Yeah, it was to become a phys ed teacher. So that's what I got my degree in at URI. And then I actually got my master's in special education. I think they're very similar. You're impacting the youth, you're mentoring, you're teaching. It's all kind of hand in hand. I'm just fortunate that I'm able to coach basketball and travel around a little bit more maybe than some, phys ed teachers will during their job.
Sure.
But if for whatever reason, coaching ends up, my time in coaching runs out, which I don't anticipate that, then, sure. Teaching might be the avenue I go. But yeah, it was always either coaching or teaching for me.
Well, that's I put whatever the saying is, I doubled that. Both my parents are teachers and my grandfather was a phys ed teacher as well and coaches as well. So I know of that type of experience and that nature. Over your time of coaching, whether it be at St. John Fishers or here at URI, you've dealt a lot with, and a lot of your roles, including, working with players, helping them improve, but also looking out for players to come onto the team. How important has that experience been for you, whether it be at the beginning or now, to really help players and really find the best players that can help the team?
Yeah, it's really all about those two things. It's finding, young ladies that fit your program, fit your culture, and that can help you, win basketball games and win off the court as well. So that's probably, one of the most fun parts of my job, because you can meet a lot of different people, a lot of different families, different cultures. You're interacting with so many different people, on a yearly basis. And then player development, once you get them there, you have to make them better, right? That's part of the deal. Is they come in as freshmen, you help them not just develop as players, but develop as human beings. Who they walk in as a freshman shouldn't be the same, person or player that they walk out of their senior year. And I really pride myself on that. I really pride myself on, not just finding young ladies who can fit the program, but helping them throughout their time wherever I am. And both parts are really enjoyable, because you're helping people, you're interacting with people. And to me, that's, a really important part of life.
When you first got into coaching, and I asked this man who graduated from URI, Antonio Reynolds-Dean, was part of the 98 run into the NCAA tournament, who now coaches at the University of Georgia. I asked him about sort of his transition from playing to then coaching and how that was from handling it. Because that's a different experience. You're going from playing and then now you have to act like an adult, but these kids are only a few years younger than you. So for you, and I asked you about transition to college from high school, how much of a learning process was that for you at first to change your perspective on life to become now a coach?
It was hard, I think the biggest adjustment is when you're a player, it's all about you, right? Like coaches are there to serve you. I had people around me, always wanting to help me, willing to help me. And once you become a coach, now you're the one that's providing that. It's no longer really about you. It's about the player and developing them and being there for them and supporting them. And I think when you're young, young 20s, sometimes that's a hard kind of thing to grasp. So it was a little bit of a transition. But I don't think it took me too long. And I was really fortunate, at my St. John Fisher spot to be under a great head coach who allowed me to do a lot and really kind of threw me into the fire, and let me get my feet wet as a full-time on-court assistant. So, it was kind of sink or swim. Either I figured it out and grew up and acted like an adult and a coach, or I probably wouldn't have had a job, much longer after that. So I was fortunate to be in a good situation.
Sure. You as a coach, you have your own idea or concepts of what you want to do or help the team with, compared to then the head coach or whoever the coach is that you're working with or under. How do you mesh with that at the beginning and then as the season goes on? Because if you don't, it's not going to work out. You're going to be gone very quickly. Is that another thing you had to really work on at first, or is that something that just came naturally?
It's something that came somewhat naturally. Like I like learning, I enjoy learning and growing, and, coaching, you're a part of a team, there's 5 of us, we have support teams. So it's not about, my opinion or my idea or what's right. It's, can we come together as a group and throw all of our opinions and our philosophies into one, and then ultimately the head coach makes a decision on what he or she feels best. And again, I've had the privilege to work for some really, really good head coaches who've allowed all the assistants to have a voice and respected all of their opinions. So it allows you to still feel heard, and it allows you to give, your thoughts and what you think is right, or what you think we should do, and then at the end of the day, they kind of take all of that and they run with whatever they want to run with. But I didn't necessarily have much of a, problem with that at all.
You talked about, great coaches working with them and having a voice equally heard. And no offense to the previous ones from before you, right? But what makes Tammi Reiss maybe the best one out of them all?
Tammi is just, there's no one like her. She's Tammi. Her energy, her passion, her drive, her ability to connect with a diverse group of people, her ability to motivate a diverse group of people is really what makes her special. It's her people skills. It's her ability to motivate. And she does not settle for anything less than great. She has very high expectations. And she has a way of really pushing our staff and our players to meet those expectations without being overly demanding or demeaning or, anything. She just does it with who she is. And that's her passion, her energy, and her, her love for people. But if you ever jump on her social media or if you ever interact with her, you just know that, Tammy's Tammi, and there's just nobody like her.
Yes. When she first came and seeing her car rides, lip singing to songs and saying that was like, it's a different environment than, no offense to what was previously here, but you know that you're in for a ride and you're in good hands when you have someone as energetic as she is.
Yeah.
A few years ago, you made your LeBron-esque return to Cleveland, but except to your alma mater here at the University of Rhode Island. How much of the stars being aligned were there for you to make that jump back to here in the role that you're now at?
Oh man, it's interesting. I think they had to be aligned a little bit because I didn't know Tammi at all when she first was hired. Again, me coming back was always something I wanted to do. I really wanted to make sure that it was for the right head coach, meaning someone that, I had the same values, beliefs, morals. And we actually had an AAU coach that we were both really close with, that we built really good relationships with. And he kind of set us up with a phone call, and me and Tammi just hit it off. It was like we were firing back and forth. Sure. We just hit on a lot of the same things. Brought me up on, campus, and we hit it off even more on the interview, and, basically was offered the job, right on the spot. And it didn't take me probably less than 10 seconds to say, of course. So yeah, I think they were aligned to a certain point. I feel lucky because I'm sure there's plenty of people out there who want to, work for Tammi and live in the beautiful state of Rhode Island.
Sure. So nothing compares to, besides the winters, of course. I could go without the winter, but hey, that's life. As we said, mentioning again for another time, being part of a group that's seen the rise and return of this great program that it is now. What has that been like for you these few years you've been here at URI?
Just a lot of pride. I'm happy. It just makes me feel, just prideful, I guess is the best, way I can explain it. Cause again, I love this place. This place is a huge part of, who I am and who I've become today. And just being able, to look at the standings in the Atlantic 10 and seeing Rhode Island at the top, and the respect that, we've kind of earned over the past couple of years. It's something I've always wanted for the program. So to kind of be a part of it and kind of can watch it a little bit from the outside, like I'm not on the court doing it, like walking into the Ryan Center before a game and the stands are filled and it's packed and people are screaming. I'm like, man, this is a feeling I always wanted as a player, but it's nice to kind of sit and just like observe it happening in front of my eyes. So it's been unbelievable. I'm extremely grateful to be here and be a part of it.
At the first year you're back here, you're right. At what point did you see, similar to your own success as a player, when did you see as a coach in your first year here that, hey, there's something special here? I know you just mentioned Tammi Reiss. She really demands a lot, but she's also a great person. Was there a moment you could tell that, hey, there's something special here?
Yeah, I think it was probably midway through the year. We were playing some good basketball. I think we had a little bit of a winning streak going. We had some kids that were not currently playing that were just practicing with us, and you could just watch the talent. They were on the scout team, and just their talent level, and kind of knowing that was going to come next year. The gel that our staff had, we had a very good chemistry in a gel between us, and it just felt good. It felt right. Even though that season didn't ended the way we wanted to, we lost to Duquesne in the first round, and then COVID happened, everything gets shut down, but you just kind of felt the momentum building. You felt the energy that was going on between the players, between the staff. And, it was probably about midway through the year when I was like, okay, we might like this. I think we're building something here.
Well, over the last few years, it's improved even better each year, the following year. As a coach, it's different as a player to find continued success, but as a coach, it's even different. And I would think maybe even harder. How do you manage that? It's difficult, especially coming from a program that wasn't very successful in the years past. And now you have all this attention on you, and, it's all over social media and the fans are coming. And I think sometimes for our players,
it can get overwhelming. I know this past year, I think there were moments when the pressure was high a little bit, and it was all about championship or, I think one thing we learned as a staff is we got to stay true to the process. And it's not about, always the outcome or championships. It's about just doing things the right way every single day. And regardless of the winning and losing. But I do think it brings, a little bit of pressure, and it's good pressure, right? Like you're winning games and people are coming to watch you play and they want to see you succeed. And, but I do think it can get a little bit overwhelming at times. And so we're just, try to keep our kids humble and confident and take the pressure off them a little bit and just stick to our process and having fun. And I think this year we're definitely going to do that.
Last season, the historic year that the program deservedly had, what was your mindset going to the season? Because clearly that had to have been completely different than what happened. And how do you describe what that happened in terms of what that will provide later on?
Yeah, I had no idea what last season was going to bring. We had a core group coming back. So we knew that, we were going to be decent. We had a bunch of new, players, personalities kind of mixed in with the team. We knew we had talent that was very evident from practices and, the competitive nature in practice. But, the season is so long. There's so many highs and lows. There's so many, things that can happen. So all in all, though, like the things that we accomplished is something that can never be taken away from that group. It's something that obviously will go down in the history books. And now it's just trying to maintain that and build from that. And, we've gotten ourselves where our culture is in a really good place. And that's really the most important thing. And when you have a good culture, when you have kids who want to do it the right way and that believe in one another, you're going to be successful. And that's kind of where we're at right now.
Sure. My dad, and still does to this day, he's been a tennis coach at South Kingston High School here in Rhode Island for the last nearly 30 years. And he always had a saying of, it's not rebuilding, it's reloading. And for the team this year, there's a lot of good players coming back. There's a lot of people overseas coming and a lot of good transfers or whatever it may be coming to this team. Mixing in in terms of chemistry from the girls coming back to then those who are coming this year who are new to the team, what's that blend like and how do you make sure that that's the best quality that you can get?
Yeah, I think we're in a similar place, as we were last year, as far as, we have a couple kids who have returning. And then we have a whole group of kids who are either new or who were on the roster and didn't play much in the past. So it will be, and we didn't have everyone here over the summer. So our first time really being together as a full unit is going to be, in September. And our whole focus is, going to be getting these kids, bonding, getting these kids, chemistry off the court. You have chemistry off the court, typically it translates to on the court.
Sure.
And just really seeing who steps up and who starts to flourish in what roles, because it's really wide open right now. Again,
Sure.
we're really talented, but we are young, and we're young as far as minutes played together as well. But we're really excited for this group. This group was a great group of kids, unbelievable group of kids,
Sure. So at the end of last season, although it may not have ended as maybe the team wanted to, another big time thing happened was Tammi Reiss that big time deal to have her be there for a long time, deservedly so. What do you hope that does? Because also you see that the team, it goes from now that women's team is getting the attention that it deserves, it's getting all this focus, as the men's team, no offense, wasn't finding the success it was having. Piggybacking off of that, the success you guys had, what do you hope this does for the team and the program, for the fan base and you guys in general for the years to come?
I think the biggest thing is, recruiting wise, in our crazy business, you don't get a 10-year deal. You just don't see it very often. So there's always the question, especially when you've taken a program, from kind of not doing great to the levels we have, there's always the question in recruiting of, well, how long are you guys going to be here? Or is, Tammi, looking, or whatever it might be. So I think it helps solidify some security in some of our, maybe our younger recruits that didn't know if they do commit to us, is Tammi going to be there?
Sure.
And I think it shows that the fans and the community, Tammi's commitment to URI and URI's commitment to Tammi, and how important she's been, to not just the women's basketball program, but the whole entire URI, community as a whole. So it is unbelievable. I'm super happy for her. I'm happy for our staff. I'm happy for our players. I thought it was, an unbelievable thing for her to be given that.
Well, now as an alumni, it'll be exciting to see what this team does now that that's out of the way, and to know, okay, she's going to be here for a long time because she still has, as well as the rest of the staff, has stuff to continue to do. And I'm not saying that you're leaving anytime soon. I'm sure you love being at URI. Who wouldn't like being at URI? For you, how do you estimate when you say, okay, maybe I should, take a look at, as other coaches may have done, looking at, okay, will I be able to make the next level to be the head coach next season or the year after? How do you put that thought process together in terms of what your future as a coach is?
I'm 2 feet in where I am right now at URI. I absolutely love, working for Tammi. I love who I work with. I love our players. I love living here. So it's going to take a lot for me to probably want to move on. It would have to be the right head coaching opportunity. I do want to become a head coach. I do want to challenge myself and see, what I can do with the program. But it would have to be the right opportunity, because grass isn't always greener, even if it is a promotion. But I really enjoy, what I do and who I do it with, right now, here and now. So we'll see. You never know what the future brings. But I'm really happy and loving, URI and in the program.
Now, before we end here today, I want to thank my guest this week, my amazing guest, for joining us this week. It's been a big treat for myself. I want to end on a segment called the One Word Challenge. So in this segment, I'll do my best to throw out a few names of people, places, things that have something to do with my guest this week being Megan. She has to do her best to say a word or two or sentence that best describes that phrase. Are you ready?
Yeah, it's pressure, but I'm ready.
Rochester.
Family.
Kingston.
Beautiful.
Success.
Winning.
Hard work.
Me.
Tammi Reiss.
Energy.
And apologies for butchering this name. Kathy Inglis.
Tough.
And last but certainly not least, Megan Shoniker.
Oh man, competitive, fun.
Well, hopefully I can tell competitive, especially the success you've had. But I say truthfully, as I said before, thank you for taking the time to speak about yourself and your story and what you plan to do, not just this season, for the years to come at URI. It's been fun. Thank you. I appreciate you having me. I really enjoyed it, and I'm glad we were able to finally hop on for this. Hey, no worries. Things come for when you wait. The patience is all that matters. You're a busy person, and you certainly have other things that are more important than doing this with a fan of the program. For all those out there, because who the heck wouldn't? If you enjoyed this, and down the road when my guest this week becomes a head coach at a really successful program, you're gonna say, "Holy crap, I should subscribe." So do me a favor, do Megan a favor, subscribe, like, comment, share as at group. The Providence Journal says subscribe. Follow on Instagram, Nolan Car at Night, and on Twitter, Nolan Car at Night. Megan, is there anything that you would like to put out there, promote, plug, anything that you feel the need to do? No, go Rhody. Exactly. Go Rhody. Well, until next week, ladies and gentlemen, I bid you all a heartfelt good night. Take care.